Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it right now. This is a small business Q&A video. For those of you that do not know, I have owned a small business, Fantasy Wax Melts, which is a wax melts company, for a little over 3 years now. It feels weird to say 3 years because it doesn't feel like it. Time does fly truly when you're having fun. But yeah, I've owned a small business for 3 years now, and I'm genuinely excited to talk about all of these things with you. I asked on both our business Instagram, my personal Instagram, and our business Facebook page, which I'll link all of those down below for you guys, as well as my Etsy shop. Check it out if you're interested in wax melts, y'all, to ask you guys for some questions that you may have. And I sort of broke them up into different categories, so hopefully we can kind of flow through this a little bit smoothly and it's not all over the place. But I am excited to answer some of your questions today. The first question is, what was it like deciding to sell wax melts? And for me, I knew that I always wanted to start a business for myself. And I don't know if any of you remember way back in 2018? Yes, 2018, I was kind of sneaking that I was working on something, and it was not wax melts, but it was something that I had been like kind of toying with the idea of starting a business. I was actually making planner charms, which looking back on that now, I am so grateful I didn't do that because I don't feel like that's a very sustainable business model or what I was planning on doing at all. I don't think I would have done very well with that. I think planner charms work well if you already own a planner style shop. I don't know what I was thinking, but I started doing that in 2018. I started working on it. I put a lot of money into it. I actually probably still have a lot of the charms. I abruptly decided to scrap that idea because I found out I was pregnant with Reagan. And I mean, long story short, y'all know I get super sick when I'm pregnant. So that just idea went out the window, and I had Reagan in 2019, and things just got really stressful and really busy. And then as 2020 came, things were still stressful, things were still busy, but my mind had completely changed from planner charms. I didn't want to do that. I abandoned that idea. But in 2020, early 2020, I would say, Andrea actually got into purchasing like the really cute shot cup wax melts from Etsy, and because of that I got into it too, because she was like, oh, you gotta smell these, you gotta look at these, they're so cute. And it became kind of an obsession of mine. I really loved it. I purchased a ton. I don't purchase as much because I have a lot, but I did purchase a ton, and I would get these in the mail and I'd share them with Brian. We'd sit at the couch and open them and smell them together, and he's like, this is a really cute idea, Kristen. Like, I feel like we could make this. Like, I feel like you could make these. And I'm telling you, the second he said that, the wheels started turning. I was like, oh, I could. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got so excited because I had so many ideas. And it took about, I would say, a couple of months. And Brian really did a lot of the like groundwork for this, because at the time I was working 60-hour weeks. I would work 6 days a week, 10-hour days. And I did that for like a year and a half while he was at home in school. So he was able to, well, at home in school while watching our 2 children. So he was still very busy himself, but he was taking the time to sort of do all the research and figure everything out for me. And when I would come home, I would kind of pick and tweak at things and be like, this is how I'd want it. He's like, okay, well, I'll work on this tomorrow, and then like you can come home and check it out again tomorrow. And the ideas just kind of kept growing and kept going. And that's kind of how Fantasy Wax Melts started. It's because I loved the other stuff I was purchasing so much, and Brian saw how much I loved that he was like, this could be your thing. Like, this could be something you really love and you really enjoy doing. And here we are 3 years later, and I'm loving this, you guys. Next question is, did you budget how much you needed to spend on supplies and how much you needed to make, or else you would call it? Kind of, but not really. So I didn't necessarily budget on supplies because I was buying, when we were testing everything, I was buying like Michael's brand wax and Michael's brand fragrance oils, which those are not cheap looking back on it now, but we were testing with those. And then I started doing a ton of research and looking into what like wax I wanted to use. And I started off initially with just soy. You guys know we were 100% soy initially. And so I was researching that, and I didn't really budget how much I wanted to spend. I was just gonna spend, I think I bought like a pound of wax to start and like 2 fragrance oils, and they were just 1 ounce fragrance oils, which those, they can be expensive, but from where I purchased them from, I think they were like $2 an ounce. So that's kind of where I started. And once I realized that I wanted to do it, we just put our money into it and gave it a try. And there really was no, if I didn't make a certain amount of money, what I call it, that really wasn't an option for me. I really wanted this to be successful, so I just put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money into it. The next question is, how long until it became a true business for you? So this is where I think things get a little tricky. So when I'm in a ton of like crafter market, like craft market, people that make wax melts, people that make anything on Etsy. I'm in a ton of those like groups on Facebook because I like getting ideas from them and I like seeing their questions, because usually their questions are questions I have. And it's just helpful to be in groups like that. And I see a lot of people that are just starting out and they're having a ton of trouble, and it's really difficult for them to get sales outside of their friends and family. And this is where things get tricky for me answering this question, because I have been on YouTube and I've been building a social media presence for over 10 years. Definitely over 10 years. I started this when I was 15 and I'm 29. So 14 years I've been on YouTube. I've been building a social media presence. I have been building an audience. So for me, it wasn't as tricky. It's not as tricky because I wasn't initially selling to friends and family. I had an audience already established to sell to. So when people are saying, oh, I want to start a business, I want to sell people, how did you get so many customers so quickly? I spent 14 years building an audience. Like, I spent so much time and effort building this audience. And like, granted, I didn't think when I was 15 that I was going to be selling products to them, but that's just how it's become. Like with all the influencers and things, I'm not saying I'm an influencer, but I'm saying like with all the influencers and content creators now, that's essentially what they're selling to you is products now. I didn't know that back at 15. I didn't know that's what, you know, YouTube and everything, social media was going to evolve to. But because I had been building this audience for so long, it became a true business for me instantly. We sold out our first release. I think I made 100 sales our first release, because I had 100 bundles made, or 99 bundles made. I think I gave one to Andrea. So it was for me a true business from the start, from the get-go, because I had already established that audience. And I just feel like that's why that question is so tough, because I can see how hard it is for others. And I see a lot of people, like I see a lot of people I went to high school with that are starting businesses. I knew someone that started a soap business. I know someone that started like a home kind of like DIY project type business, which they're also cute and wonderful. And they struggled with it because they didn't know anybody outside of their Facebook friends or their family and things like that. So it can definitely be tough. It can definitely be tricky. But for me, that's my best answer. Because I already had an established audience, it was a lot easier. Next question is, how do you go about distinguishing yourself in an industry that already has so many vendors? Funnily enough, when I started making and selling, both making and selling wax melts, I didn't realize how saturated wax melt market was. I think when I first started selling, I didn't even know about like the big three, you know, like the big three sellers of wax melts. I only knew about one of them. And like through my journey, I'm like, oh dang, there are so many big wax melt shops out there. And so when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm one of like 5. No, babe, that's not you. It's definitely very difficult. I feel like I'm still trying to distinguish myself. I think, and I see other people do this and I love it too. I try to do things that I love. So the collections of like, gosh, the Harry Potter collections, the Christmas where I do like our favorite Christmas movies, anything that I just absolutely love, like Princess Diaries. What have I done recently? I'm like blanking on everything right now, but all the collections that I do, Beetlejuice, all of that are things that I absolutely love. So I'm trying to put my all into collections and doing pre-orders of scents that the customers love. And it's very still difficult to distinguish yourself in this industry. As I said, I am thankful that I have the audience that I have in order to make the business that I have, but I'm still such a small fish in the wax melt world. Like there are still so many bigger shops and vendors that I feel like it's really still difficult for us. And like I feel so weird saying like the small guy, because I'm not, maybe I'm in the middle, but it's still so difficult. But that is definitely something that I am still working on because it is tough. Set of questions definitely refer to my wax melt working, so let's get into that. I was asked, when you say doing 1 round, what does that mean? I think that's so funny. So if you watch my vlogs or if you watch any of my past vlogs and I talk about wax melt making, I feel like sometimes I can talk about it like you guys know exactly what I mean and you're probably like, what is she saying? So for me, 1 round can mean a lot of things. It can mean doing just 1 picture, or it can mean doing 1 round of 20 pictures depending on how many molds I can fit on my kitchen counter. So when I say like one round and I'm talking to you guys in the vlog, I feel like I'm almost talking to Brian, because when I'm like, Brian, I just have to do one more round, and he's like, okay, how long is that though? Because it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or it could be like 2 hours. So honestly, I don't have a good answer for you, but let's just say one round is one picture, maybe. How do you fit it in around parenting? For example, interruptions. It's a little difficult, not gonna lie. My littles love to run through the kitchen, and that is something that we've been working on, even not while making wax, not doing. Why do you run through the kitchen? What's fun about that? Nothing. It's dangerous. Avery's gotten older, so Avery knows that when I'm working, not to really come in the kitchen. As far as wax melt making, typically when I'm doing orders or anything like computer work or anything, interruptions, it's fine. Like I can walk away from that. But if I am making wax, it is a science. I can't let it get too hot. I can't let it get too cold. It has to be at exact temperatures or things get dicey. So if I'm making wax and Brian's not around to help kind of keep them in line, it's always like 1 minute, 1 minute, can just 1 minute please, just 1 minute please. And if you ever see me spill while I'm pouring, 1, it's probably because I have a shaky hand, but 2, it's because I'm talking to somebody while doing so and telling them to give me a minute. How do you keep track of it all? Examples, pre-orders, collections. I've talked about this before a lot as well. I use Monday.com, not sponsored by Monday or anything like that, but we use it at my work at Scribble Prints Co. And ever since then, I feel like it's been the easiest thing for me to work. It is a glorified Excel sheet. It is easy to use. I don't think it's the free version, but I think I have the student version. I think I used Brian's student email to get it. But it is expensive if you need to actually pay for it. But yeah, it's basically a glorified Excel sheet. I have sections on there. I have everything broken down. I have little like to do, click done when I'm done sort of things. That's kind of how I keep track of everything. Otherwise, I think I would go crazy. I really do. How do you determine what fragrance oils smell good together, and do you get samples? So the first, I would say like 2 years of ordering fragrance oils, I would always toss in like 5 or 10 sample oils with my orders, because I needed to know what everything smelled like. There's some things that I guess you know what they smell like peppermint, you know what peppermint smells like. Pineapple, you know what pineapple smells like, but there's a lot of things like, for the longest time, I didn't know what glazed donut smelled like, and that's one of my favorite fragrance oils now. I didn't know what apple strudel smelled like. That's one of my favorites. So I ordered samples for the longest time, and then in order to blend them together, I saw somebody comment this, they were like, someone said that they just feel like they have a nose for it. I also feel like I weirdly have a nose for it when I'm thinking about combinations for blends, because for those of you that don't know, the first like 2 years, I didn't do blends at all. It was all single scents. Because of that, I think it kind of helped me, because I know what each individual scent smells like on its own, and I just know what like works together. And there's so many times, if you follow Fantasy Wax, the blends are off by like 1, you know, like I have currently apple strudel glazed donuts and zucchini bread available as my favorite for the month. I know that works together because I've done apple strudel and zucchini bread together, and I just know the mixture of glazed donuts mixed in with that is gonna be amazing. So it's just kind of easy to figure out what's gonna smell good together and what's not. How do you select which suppliers to purchase from? Great question. Lots of trial and error. I have definitely written off one supplier. I've written off one supplier because I couldn't stand the way they shipped their products. Everything fell apart as soon as it came. It was a mess. There's some times where I get certain, so there's this one supplier I only buy one thing from, just one, that's it, just one fragrance oil, that's it. I don't buy anything else from them. There's some suppliers that I only buy liquid dyes from. There's some suppliers that I only buy wax from. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of time. Unfortunately, it's a lot of money, but it's worth it. Do you ever get a headache from all of the scents? Funnily enough, I do not. I have made so many combinations of scents all in one go. Like I have like, I would say like 10 cooling at one time. I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't know why. Maybe I'm used to it. How do you decide between doing ready to ship and pre-orders? For me, it's just if I have the time to work on a pre-order. I still work 30 hours a week. I still work 3 days, 10-hour days. So I have to be able to make my time work in 4 days. I have to be able to make sure I'm able to work on an open collection, because I always want to have a release. I don't know what it is. I think it's been ingrained in me that I always want to have a release every other week. We haven't missed a week yet, knock on wood. Is that real wood? I don't know. But I like to consistently have a release every other week, and I can't consistently have open pre-orders. That just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. So I didn't start doing pre-orders until we switched our wax about 1.5 years in. Yeah, 1.5 years in. And I feel like I like to always have an open pre-order once it's closed to open another. But for example, right now I don't have an open one because I want to be able to just kind of relax this holiday season and just work on collections only. I don't know, I'm telling you, it's how my little pea brain works. It works up here, it makes sense in here. It may not make sense, but I'm telling you, it just makes sense for me that I time it to where I know I can work on it. Does that make sense? Hopefully. How many hours a week does it take to plan collections, make wax, package orders? Like I said, the 4 days that I am available to be doing fantasy wax like full time, I am working on it. Obviously, as you guys know, I also do YouTube, so I work on that as well in between. But for me, coming up with collections is, I think about wax, I feel like 75% of the time while I'm at my actual job, and I'm thinking of like collections that I want to do, and I'm like, oh, this blend would be good, and I have a little running like note on my phone of like scents I want to do together, not necessarily collections. So I always feel like I'm working like in my head on that and like what I want to do, so I come home and I type up in Monday what I want to add. Making the wax can definitely be time consuming. Like I said with the round question, sometimes a round for me can be 20 pitchers, and that can take me like 2.5 hours to pour. By the time I'm done pouring, the first things are basically cooled, so I can probably make wax all day. And then packing orders just depends. Sometimes it can take me a couple hours, sometimes it can take me all day. It just, like the pre-order and stuff can take me all day long. It just depends, but I feel like I have decent time management skills, and so I'm able to kind of work around that. So in the 4 days, I like to make sure I can get those things done in those 4 days. And then the last 3 questions sort of go together, so I kind of lumped them in the same category. How did you balance starting a small business while working full-time? I feel like I almost answered that. Brian really helped me. He helped me so much, and I'm like forever grateful for that at the beginning, because like we opened our business and I was still doing 60 hours a week. I would come home on that one day and I would do the toppings, like the glitters and the stuff. And because of Fantasy Wax, I've been able to, obviously, to lessen my hours, which has been wonderful for me, for my sanity. But yeah, it was a lot of him helping me in the beginning. It was very helpful to be able to just come home and do the computer work, or do the computer work when I got home, do the toppings, do the packaging. He would help so tremendously. Like I literally cannot thank him enough. This question always gets me. I feel like I've gotten this question a bunch because like I usually don't ever stop and think about this, because I don't have to stop. I can't stop. I'm always running. But it basically says, how do you balance everything between being a wife, a mom, running a business, and working elsewhere? How do you prioritize? Most importantly, do you find time for yourself? It is a fun balance. But like I said, I do part-time at SPC. I do 30 hours there. And those days are just allotted to SPC, because with working the 10 hours and then the commute, I'm basically out of the house for about 12 hours a day. And then the 4 hours that I'm home the rest of the week is Fantasy Wax. So I prioritize obviously being a wife and a mom because I'm with them as much as I possibly can be. I'm thankful that I'm home for those 4 days because I feel like I'm able to be with the kiddos. On the weekends, me and Brian are able to spend time together. At night, we're all able to spend time together, and that's really wonderful. And then I do find some time for myself. As y'all know, I love reading, so if I can squeeze in like 50 pages a night, that really does something for my heart. And that's kind of where I find time for myself. I feel like if you guys watch my vlogs, you know exactly how my days line up and when I'm spending time with the kiddos. And if they have anything going on like with school or anything like that's specific to them, I always make sure to be there, and I'm really grateful that I have that opportunity to be there. And so I'm constantly trying to schedule around them, like their first priority. Brian and the girls are first priority. I schedule around them, and then if I can't find time to work, I work at night. And then the last question is, how do you decide what your short-term and long-term business goals are? For example, how do you balance what you can do given your bandwidth with perhaps growing as much as you'd like with everything else going on in your life? How do you make sure your goals are both aspirational for you while also feasible? Great question. Short-term goals are always just to make sure the business maintains what it's at. If not, it can go higher, you know what I'm saying? So when we first started, we did 4 shot cups in a bundle. We just sold bundles with 4 shot cups. That's all you could buy. And then I eventually was like, okay, we have a little bit of extra. These aren't selling out, so let's break up the bundles. We'll sell a new bundle on release week, but then we'll have the extras from the other bundles individually. And I feel like after that, it just kept growing and growing. Now we don't even do shot cups anymore. Now it's all shapes, and the collections have grown from 4 cents to 12 cents. So I feel like I continuously am trying to evolve from, you know, what we started with or what the past collection is. I'm constantly trying to evolve. Like, we went from single scents to blends, things like that. So short-term goals for me are always just to keep growing, to keep trying to do new things, keep trying to be better. Long-term goals, I'm working towards, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like speaking them into the universe because I get nervous, man. I'm always nervous that I'm gonna ruin something, you know? But I am trying so hard to maintain what I can in the 4 days, and that's what I'm saying about, like, with pre-orders and the ready to ships and things like that. If I can get something done in the 4 days, I'm happy about it. And then if I have a little bit of wiggle room, I try to do more. Hopefully that answers that question. I feel like it doesn't, but I hope it does, because in my head, once again, I feel like it makes sense, but I might not be communicating it correctly. For basically all of the questions that I had for my small business Q&A. If you have any other questions, let me know down below. Like I said, I'm pretty much an open book. There's not really much that I like to keep like hidden. I don't mind answering questions, so hopefully this answers your questions. I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye, guys.